The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Top pocket goal!
It's what dreams are made of.
They are going to the World Cup Finals!
Hello and welcome to the COYGIG podcast. Kathleen McNamee here, live from Perth on what is an evening that's hard to put into words. Definitely a lot of pride around the place, but also disappointment as Ireland are no longer able to get out of their group stage in the World Cup. To look back on the game tonight, I am joined by our usual COYGIG panel of the one and only Captain Karen Duggan and, of course, legendary Emma Byrne. How are we both feeling after that?
I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Obviously, like you said, really proud, but it feels like an opportunity lost, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just feel a bit drained, to be honest. It's such a build up, and the first half was so good, apart from the last 2-3 minutes. But the build up was so good. The girls were so good the first half, and then it just fell apart in the second half, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to put words on your feelings. Like, this is about the 5th show I've recorded since the final whistle went, and I still don't think I'm any closer to kind of summing up my feelings. But I suppose that's like, let's go back to the start. Let's go back to the happy moments that we had. We officially have our first ever World Cup goal, and it came as a McCabe Olympico. Couldn't have been more spectacular, couldn't have been more poignant and perfect. What were your live reactions? I know you guys were both doing studio work, so you were in studio watching it, I assume. What was your feeling? I personally jumped straight into the air, forgot I was in a press box, and someone behind me was like, "Can you please sit down?" And I was like, "Sorry, just having my moment here."
It took me a minute. It actually took me a minute to realize what just happened, because, you know, with this World Cup as well, with all the technology, I have to wait for it to be confirmed and they actually kick off again. So I was like sitting there waiting. Nobody was really reacting. And then when I realized that's it, the goal given, I was just jumping in the air. In fact, everyone was jumping in the air for ITV. I think we've gained some fans in there as well, by the way. It was just brilliant. It was brilliant. I mean, mistake by the goalkeeper, but, you know, it was a great corner.
Yeah, there was a great whip on it. Yeah, no, I absolutely did the same as you, Kathleen. I was up in the air. If I hadn't been wearing heels, I probably would have taken off on a sprint, but it was such a moment. It was so early. We started so positively, and it was an unbelievable feeling as a supporter. You don't get many moments like that, but that was really, really special. And the fact that we didn't then sit off, that we kept playing that well throughout the majority of the first half, it just kept building your confidence. The excitement levels were through the roof. I can only imagine what it was like in the stadium, because it sounded unbelievable. Like, you could hear the fields of Athenry ringing through the television. The support sounded incredible. And yeah, it was just all going so well, too well.
Yeah, no, the atmosphere in the stadium was incredible in that moment. It's so funny, like, looking back on it now, or even 10-15 minutes after the goal, it felt like it all happened so quickly. Like, all of a sudden they were back playing, and I was like, wait, I didn't get to enjoy Katie and the team celebrating this goal. But the minute that goal went in, the whole place just erupted. Like, the attendance tonight was 17,065, I think. I would be surprised if there was even 2,000 or 3,000 Canadians in there, because it was just Irish fans, and the whole place erupted. Everyone was on their feet. There was like different portions of the crowd were practically having sing-offs, because someone would be chanting "Ole, ole, ole," and other ones were doing "Fields of Athenry," other ones were doing "Stand Up for You Girls in Green." Like, it was just sensational. And as you say, because the team kept up that intensity for that period after the goal, you could feel the hype and the fever pitch building a little bit in the stadium, and like the crowd just absolutely egging them on. Like, I know we had that brilliant moment in Sydney with, 70,000 people, but it felt as electric in the stadium tonight. For you guys, like, looking at that super positive start. What was it that Ireland had over Canada up until probably the own goal that kind of made us be the team that were on top? I mean, one of the guys described it as almost felt like the team had the string on a ball and the passes were just being so perfectly strung between everyone.
Yeah, we were just braver, really, weren't we, in our press? We were energetic. We didn't fear the occasion. In hindsight, when you look back on that first half in Australia, maybe the occasion was a factor. There was a bit of fear there, and we just had a different confidence level, I think, in our play. We knew we could get at them, and we knew that they had weaknesses. I think, like, if Buchanan hadn't been whipped off, I think she was potentially someone we could have targeted to get sent off in that second half, and that shows the concern that they have that they took her off. And it was just the distances between the lines were really good, and the fact that we weren't affected by Heather, obviously a late withdrawal, and that didn't filter down through the team or cause any nerves. But yeah, it was the energy levels and the bravery. Obviously Katie was pressing a lot higher, Anya was doing the same, and it allowed the likes of Lucy Quinn and Sinead Farley to actually see the ball in a more advanced position, which we really didn't do in the last game. So all very, very positive. I think a lot of credit goes to the girls and how they approached the game. I'd say they took it upon themselves to say, you know what, we have the players to loosen the shackles a little bit. And they showed that, and then we lost it.
Before we get on to that, and we're gonna let us sink into the happiness for a little bit more. Emma, what was it for you, or who was it for you in that first half that you were really impressed with?
Well, I just thought we defended the central areas so well. I think, you know, the press was so good, which is really difficult to get right. And it's the first time I've seen us press excellently. Like, we just pressed from the centre, forced them out wide, and they just didn't know what to do, because I think their whole game plan was to play centrally, especially with Jess Fleming on the pitch. They wanted to get her on the ball, and we didn't allow that to happen.
I think they thought that our eights would go to the fullbacks, but our fullbacks took that on, which was brilliant to see. Yeah, and it was because the central players got their position and so right.
Yeah, the fullbacks were higher for sure, but I just think that the pressing from Rusha, from Denise, from Sinead Farley and Lucy Quinn was absolutely spot on. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Kira Carusa, who was, for me, absolutely brilliant in the first half. Like, she was just class. As soon as the ball, she put the fear of death into the two central defenders, and Gilles and Buchanan. Like, they did not want the ball, which was brilliant. And, you know, we just did everything right. When we got on the ball, we kept it. We passed really nice balls up into the spaces for Carusa to run onto. It was just a brilliant performance all around. My daughter agrees with me. Lolita is in total agreement. Yeah, it was just fantastic. The best defensive then transition of play I've seen from Ireland.
Yeah, I agree. I think that since our Finland away performance, I don't think I've seen us play on the front foot as well as that. And yeah, that was it. It was just front foot. Yeah, it was still defensive, but it was much higher up the pitch. Obviously, I was looking at ball retention stat, but we didn't exert as much energy as we had to in the Australia game. So that's why we were able to get up in support of Kira when she did get the ball. And like Emma said, I think we could wax lyrical about her because she was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, we made the back four in Canada look very, very average. They didn't know what to do. The whole talk at the start of the game, before the game, was all about Ashley Lawrence, Kate McCabe, blah, blah, blah. Who cared? It didn't matter. We won that battle. We completely won that battle in terms of getting their defenders on the ball and allowing them to play. They had no answers either. These long balls that were just going over the top were, bread and butter for our backline, and they were mostly going out for kickouts, and even Courtney's kicking was really good in the first half. So they played into our hands. We got it spot on.
Yeah, I felt like some of those long balls that they were putting in felt eerily similar to us in previous iterations when we didn't really know what we were doing and you were just hoping for something to come of it. Then obviously we had the goal, Megan Connolly on goal. Cross came in, she just tried to kick it out. Instead, it deflected off her and kind of squirmed under Courtney Brosnan. For you guys, was that the changing of things in the game, or was it more so the second half, the substitutes for both sides, and how much that changed things?
Yeah, I mean, the goal was really disappointing. Like, it was well past the time for the referee to blow up, and we would have been complaining about that, wouldn't we, Karen, if we were on the pitch? But the point is, it could have been stopped. Like, this is the disappointing thing, that we gave away 2 goals that we could have stopped. And we're so good defensively. It was wet, slippy, you know, it bounced away from Courtney Brosnan. But for me, as soon as Grosso, who was a deep blind midfielder, by the way, who had made that run into that left-hand channel, Niamh went out. Grosso's first touch was back, and we didn't push up.
You have to step there, yeah.
You've got to step up, and as a goalkeeper, you've got to push them up, because you want that space to come into, and you don't want any traffic in there, because that's exactly what happens. It comes off players. So that's a big mistake for us, because we're so good at it normally. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. But for me, it was the second half that changed everything. Their substitutes, our substitutes, really changed the balance of the game.
And do you think there was one that was particularly more changing of the balance? Like, I know a couple of people mentioned about Lucy Quinn coming off. Other people said it was the other substitutes that came in like a little bit later. What was the change in the balance?
Yeah, I think it was Lucy Quinn, because we were already kind of at 6s and 7s before we made the triple substitute, which again, I don't think was fully necessary that early. It was almost like the criticism of Vera not using her bench or not using it early enough played on her mind. And she just, I don't know, pulled a bit of a banger on that one, because it didn't make sense at that point. The halftime substitute to me made no sense. I thought that we had the balance of everything right. I thought Lucy slotted into that higher midfield box role very, very well. Thought the right side was operating absolutely fine. That's where a lot of our joy was coming through. And I know a lot of people were talking about starting Abby Larkin after her performance the last day, but Abby came on, and she came on in the latter stages of the match when the game had opened up and could be an impact sub. We needed to start the second half the way we did the first half, because realistically, again, at that point, it's like the start of the game. It's level playing field, and we knew that a result, level playing field, would have been enough. So to make a change when everything bar that last phase of play where we coughed up the goal was going so well, it just disrupted the dynamic a little bit and was unnecessary. Obviously, you were going to be a little bit dejected after conceding that close to halftime. So I think you really need to reset, and making changes when you're trying to reset, to me, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it was just, I think it was kind of a mixture of everything. It was a time in the game where it was the perfect time to settle it down and really think and be experienced. And I know this is our first time in the World Cup, but we've played lots of pressure games before. This is the time to settle down. We're doing a really good job. They've made 3 changes at halftime. I guarantee you their manager was going absolutely mental at them. And that's what you want. I'd be like, their manager is going crazy. They've made 3 substitutions. Obviously, they know it's not working for them. We're on top. They scored a crappy goal at the end of the half. Like, we're on top. Let's get at them. Let's get at them. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And no disrespect to the girls that came on, none whatsoever, because I actually think tactically we changed as well. Not just the players changed. Tactically we changed. And we didn't have Rusha and Denise sitting in guarding that central areas. They brought on Christine Sinclair and Schmidt, who both play centrally and are both very good at it. So for me, it's exactly how you started. We stopped that ball going in centrally. And yeah, okay, we might try to release Katie a little bit, but then I'm going to tuck someone in right side. If I'm going to release Katie, you know, towards the end, I might be like, right, Katie, we're going to play 15, 20 minutes and then you're going to go. Although we didn't need to. It was 1-1. We're quite happy with 1-1.
That's my point. We didn't need
to. If you did want to go for it, which, okay, we could have, because we were the better team, we were on top of it. I'm going to tuck someone in right-hand side, because it didn't really matter about the right. That wasn't even in play. Like, they weren't playing, we weren't playing down that side. So just, you know, let Katie go, but took a defender in on the right side. But I just think like nothing to do with the players that came on. I think they came on and told, let's get forward. And it wasn't the time to do that. It was a time to settle in, do what we were doing, and really annoy them because they were getting so frustrated with us.
Yeah, because I think they actually did bring Sinclair into the play quite well. She was getting a lot of joy, like, you know, holding the ball up, bringing them into play, which they just didn't have that space to do in the first half. And when when your talisman is on the pitch and she starts making moves and doing these things, it's obviously going to give the people around them a lift. And Canada did lift it quite a bit in the second half. Obviously they had fresh legs on, but it was almost like it was our own doing.
Yeah, as soon as you see Sinclair on the pitch, who I was actually quite glad didn't start, by the way, because he's extremely good with her back to goal, and it's not our forte. That's someone that plays with their back to goal and sets it off for deep line midfielders. But as soon as she comes on the pitch, you know you have to stop that ball going into her. And if you can't, you know you have to pick up the seconds for the midfielders that are running through. So I thought we had it spot on first half, and it would have been even more spot on if we did the same in the second half.
Do you think we're seeing like a limitation or maybe a lack of big tournament experience from Vera in terms of, you know, she had those comments at halftime about in the Australia game about a mistake was going to define it for either team, and the players said afterwards that, you know, that was kind of in their heads. And then we see her making this change at halftime when now it hasn't been confirmed yet whether Lucy was injured or if there was something else up, so that is also a possibility. But if it was just purely a tactical change,
apparently it was tactical. Tactical, but to me it seemed like she'd almost planned it before the game, because why else would you have taken Lucy Quinn off?
Yeah, well, it didn't really make any sense. I remember, like, in the stadium, whenever everyone saw Abby warming up, we thought maybe she was going to come on like 10-15 minutes into the second half, and when she was put straight on, everyone was like, oh, is it maybe Sinead Farley or someone is coming off, maybe she doesn't have the legs. And when people saw it was Lucy Quinn, there was a genuine confusion that rumbled through. Even the Canadians were a bit like, is there something wrong with her? What's going on there? Emma, you mentioned the fact that like Ireland did actually change things up tactically in relation to the players that they were bringing on. Do you think I know obviously with the way the game went, you can't ultimately say that they were a success, but do you think it was the right thing to do at the time with the players that were on the pitch, and just that we didn't have the skill to execute it, or Canada were that little bit ahead of us at the time, or what did you make of them?
No, like I said before, I don't think we should have changed a single thing. We had set up in the first half to stop the ball going into the central areas, and we were doing such a good job. And then when you see the players that they were bringing on, it was very evident that they were going to play centrally. So I don't really get why we changed that. I understand why you want to get Katie up the pitch, but at 1-1, we would have been talking about how we're going to beat Nigeria and how we're going to qualify. And that's the big thing. It's not about winning the game, although you'd love to, and we could have. It's about getting the result and staying in the tournament. And the fact that we're even talking about this is an absolute amazing feat. Like, it's brilliant. So I'm so happy we're able to, you know, pick these things and, you know, try and diagnose what happened. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not talking about Vera and her experience and blah, blah, blah. Like, ultimately, it does come down to that. I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, if I see Christine Sinclair coming on the pitch, I'm going to put a player like basically in front of her. She's not going to get on the ball because all the play comes from her. All of it comes from her. Schmidt, I wouldn't have been too bothered about. But the fact is, Sinclair was free. Schmidt was able to get in and she looked like a world beater. She's actually not that good. But as Karen said, a player like that coming onto the pitch lifts the team a little bit. It's a great substitute. It's a great change from Canada, but I still think we could have nullified that by doing what we did. And players, you know, you're 45 minutes in a World Cup. It doesn't really matter if you're a little bit tired. You're going to play your heart out. And for me, Carusa's got to stay on the pitch.
100%.
He was absolutely incredible. The press started with her. It was all about her. We talk about Katie. Obviously, she's world class. Obviously, she's the best in the world. But Carusa, for me, is one of the best number 9 to hold up the ball and start that press as well. She was absolutely brilliant. So that was for me a big mistake as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought, like whatever about making one substitute at that time, but 3 felt completely unnecessary. One, you'd say, yeah, okay, fresh legs, maybe another person to come into the middle just to make sure they have the legs to screen across in front of Sinclair, like you said. But bring someone on that can play off Carusa, not a direct replacement.
And so talk to, like, for people who are maybe just still catching up with the game and watching it back, talk us through, Karen, some of maybe like the key moments from Carusa that were particularly good that kind of had you sitting there going, okay, this is why she needs to be on the pitch for as long as possible.
I mean, it was just the fact that she bullied their centre backs essentially. She had her body shape right every time she received the ball. She was able to hold players off, bring our midfield into the play because the distances allowed her to do that today. The passes were better into her feet. She made those runs, and she was, like Emma said, she was part of the press. She was defending from the front. Even when the centre half got out, she was bearing down on them, putting them under pressure, making them put the ball out for throws high up the pitch. She was an absolute menace, and she had more legs left in her. As well as that, just before we took her off, she had a really good chance in the box. She's strong in the air, and we were going to start probably going for a few more long crosses. And in terms of players in the box, that's not Amber's game. Amber is going to be a player that we play on the break. At that point, we were going to have a lot more ball, maybe try and throw a few more crosses into the box. We didn't need to revert to Louise that early to capitalise on that when you have someone like Carusa in there who can cause carnage.
Yeah, I mean, Carusa should have done better with that header, shouldn't she?
That was great ball in, like it was phenomenal ball in. She just got completely under it.
But it's the same when you talk about putting Louise up there. I get it, I understand, but you have to get the ball in. You have to have good deliveries.
And at that point we were struggling to like really get a grip, like you say, in that midfield to get the passes, to get out wide. So yeah, it was.
Buchanan came off at halftime. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Carusa did that. She made that happen, and also she was up against Buchanan and Gilles, who was like considered a world-class centre half. And as I said before, she made those two look quite average. And she looked, for other teams that are looking, that might get Canada, they look at this game and they'll be able to exploit Canada because of how we played in the first half.
So all things considered, from what I'm hearing is that you're impressed with the team performance, the individual performance put in by most of the players. It was just some of the tactical changes and substitutions that put a bit of a question mark over this performance.
Yeah, for me, yeah, because I can't.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't pick any faults in the players' performance in the first half, and then we made changes, and Canada played a lot more triangles, picked a little bit more space. Now, they still weren't fantastic. Whoever gets Canada in the next round, I think, will be pretty happy. They'll have learned a lot from us, obviously, so you're welcome, but not exactly what we wanted. And just disappointing that we did. It was like, because we were so good in the first half, we felt like a draw wasn't enough. And it would have been amazing.
Becoming a bit of a trend, that one, isn't it? Emma, for the players now, like obviously tonight is going to be really, really hard. They were all devastated walking through the mixed zone afterwards, as you can imagine. But what can they do over the next couple of days to get themselves together? Because they do have to go face Nigeria. And I mean, judging by what this team said, and Katie in particular, I know that they really want to get a result for that game and to give themselves, I suppose, as well, a good sign off, as much as thank you to all the fans who have kind of loyally followed them so far in this tournament.
Absolutely. Obviously it'll take them a couple of days to get over the result, and they have to reflect on the goals as well, which for me might take a little bit longer to get over because, as I said, they were stoppable. But it's all about, when they reflect on the actual games, they've done so well. They've gained so many fans. Like, people are talking about Ireland and our little flag up there. They've done an absolutely brilliant job. They have to finish on a high. Nigeria is an extremely important game as well, to keep that momentum and to just stamp the fact that we deserve to be there. We've already done that, but basically you can't go into Nigeria and come out with a heavy loss, for example. That would kind of ruin, not everything, but it would definitely put a major dampener on there. So that they'll be back there to prove that their point, and obviously to get a first win in a World Cup is a massive thing. So they have goals, they have things to motivate them after they have a sleepless night.
I feel so bad for them having to get onto that plane and go straight back to Brisbane. I cannot imagine what the atmosphere is like on it. I really hope they're all just so wrecked that they fall asleep and they just have 5 hours apiece.
Yeah, it's also not great flying after a game like that, you know, like the rain, heavy legs. They need a good sleep. They probably won't get it, but to add travel on top of that is, yeah, like they'll be licking their wounds for a while, because it was there for us, and that speaks volumes in itself. Like I don't think that, you know, on paper coming into this group that a lot of outsiders would have said, yeah, we'll give Australia a scare and we deserved something out of the Canada match. But that's the case, and that's the positives we can take from it. But it's hard to be happy with that just now. I think you need a little to step away from it before you can reflect on all of that, because we were that close.
Yeah, I have found it interesting that after both games, you know, whether it's journalists or fans are coming up, and very much the Australian Canadians are like, whoo, we kind of got away with something there. And I know that wasn't the expectation for a lot of them coming into this. Karen, one player I do want to ask you about is Anya O'Gorman coming on, obviously such a stalwart of the game, coming in on not the best circumstances, and obviously it was like literally just a couple of minutes before kickoff when that injury happened. But can you just talk a little bit about her, and I suppose how much it meant seeing a player like her getting on and getting that opportunity to play in a World Cup?
Yeah, obviously you don't like to see any player out through injury, but I wanted with all my heart to see Anya make an appearance in this World Cup, just because we've soldiered together through so much. She retired, she came back, she has a family, she's the epitome of a professional, even though she's, you know, an amateur player. She's out and out Irish heart. And so I was really emotional seeing her. You know, we had the emotion in the first game of just like the proud moment of the whole team getting there and the significance of it all. But then you're kind of looking at your pals and you're like, the people who I wanted to see was Anya, and I thought she actually did really well. She's done it for Ireland and she's filled in very well, and she did that again. But she can be very, very proud of everything she's done, and to cap off her career with a World Cup appearance, and it's phenomenal achievement, and obviously just really so happy for her and her family and her teammates, her new teammates. But yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for the league, you know. She's kind of like the figurehead really of the league. She's the poster girl, and she's done that for so long. She's had a lot of weight in her shoulders in that way. So this feels like a reward for all those years of hard work. Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of very happy Irish people. Yeah, that's amazing.
We love her.
Yeah, we love you all. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking to her last weekend, and it was her son's first birthday this week as well, which she missed for being over here.
Happy birthday, James.
Yeah, happy birthday to James. She was saying she was taking loads of little videos and pictures so that she could show him one day when he's a little bit older. You know, Mum was at a World Cup and that's why she wasn't there, which I thought was pretty sweet and pretty cool, representing a lot of different people there. Anya is. So yeah, delighted that she got on. Emma, final word to you. What, for all the people listening at home in Ireland who are maybe feeling a little deflated this evening, what's your final message?
Final message. No, we're all a bit deflated, which is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
And as I said before, it's about momentum and gaining fans and gaining the support. And I think the girls have done that. It's another massive step for women's football. And long may it continue and grow, because I think this is another catalyst for that to happen. So yeah, get on the train.
Yes, we are very much in the station, ready to pull off if anyone wants to join in. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I know it wasn't the easiest one, but also this has soothed me a little bit going into hopefully what is a very long and contented sleep after today. The COYGIG Pod on OTB is brought to you by Cadbury, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. As we've said, tonight is not the be-all and end-all, because we do actually still have another game left, and we will be bringing you all the build-up to that and also all the reaction. And just in case you thought you were getting rid of us because Ireland aren't in the World Cup anymore, we will actually still be doing reviews of all the games in the knockout stages. So we will be with you pretty much straight up until the start of the WSL, which isn't that far away. But thank you all for listening. If you have any thoughts, or if you have anything you want to say to the team or get us to read out on the podcast, please get them into us at the COYGIG Pod on Twitter. And we will see you all very, very soon.
The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.